What's going on, guys? It's Becca Switzer with Roof Sales Mastery, author of Diamonds in the Sky. And today I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about retention. Okay, as a business owner, people ask us all the time, like, what's the secret to having good retention or keeping sales guys? How can I keep, my company from losing salesmen, from leaving and running out to work with somebody else or quitting or moving on to a different type of job, etc. And really, there are two main reasons why somebody is going to leave your company. So where does bad retention come from? Well, two things. One, think about when somebody leaves, and maybe, in this business, it's pretty likely that you may have worked for somebody else before you've gotten to wherever it is that you are right now, whether you're in business for yourself now or you work for another company or whatever the case may be. But why do people leave? One, poor management. They're not being supported by their staff. Okay, and what we mean by that is they're basically, when you're a salesperson, you're the only point of contact with the homeowner and your customers. So when crews are doing a shitty job or when management is bad, there's a lot of gaps in communication and things just aren't going the way that the customer is hoping things are going. Well, the salesman takes the brunt of that because they're the point of contact. So when they're not being supported by a good structure and company, a manager that supports them, has an administrator that takes care of some of the paperwork for them, is making sure that materials are being ordered and delivered on time, jobs are being scheduled, special orders are being fulfilled, things like that. Well, it's easy to say, okay, surely there has to be a better situation somewhere else. The grass really is greener on the other side. So maybe they go and they fish around and they go work for somebody else. So that's one reason, okay? The second reason retention is poor is because the salesmen are having a bad experience with the job. What do we mean by that? Well, they're not enjoying it, okay? Where does this come from? They're not getting good results because when people are getting results, they're getting paid. And when they're getting paid, they're happy. And when salesmen are happy, they don't go anywhere, right? So why wouldn't somebody be getting results? Well, they don't know what the hell they're doing, okay? This is a business where it's kind of guerrilla, we go around and we knock on doors. Like, it's very, very kind of an old-fashioned cowboy sort of business in the sense that we have to go out and do some guerrilla-style marketing in this business for the most part if you want to go out and capitalize on your lead resources and things like that. Well, that's kind of a hard part of the job. Door knocking isn't easy. There are people that are better at it than others, but even the people who are good at it hate it. But how much harder is it when you don't know what to say, don't know how to handle objections at the door, you're not making any money, and you're constantly getting no's, you're not getting jobs? That's a huge uphill battle when you don't have a proven system to fall back on. So when salesmen don't have official training, they don't have formal training that gives them the word-for-word approaches that they need, that they can count on to know that if I just say this every time, I should get pretty consistent results. Or if I do a sales presentation and I deliver this exact presentation, I should be closing most of my deals. If they don't have that, they have to rely on figuring it all out on their own. Well, that's very frustrating. Retention is poor. After so many no's when you're not making any money and there's really nowhere to turn to study something and get help, working for $15 an hour at the Home Depot doesn't sound so bad after all, okay? So that's where retention can be really poor. So it's either poor management, they're not being, supported by their managers are not paying them or whatever the case may be there, or they just aren't having a good experience and getting good results because they don't have the proper training to get those results that are possible in this business. So what's the answer there? Well, one, if you're a business owner, have your staff structured to support your team. But more importantly, you absolutely must have a proven system as far as lead generation and closing that your salesmen can use and should be using every single time so that they don't have to go out and fill in the gaps and figure out things as they go along anymore. It's very simple. Here's something that works. If you do this at the door on a presentation with an adjuster, etc., you should get pretty consistent results with this. Now all they have to do is show up. Okay, they don't have to figure it all out on their own. And that's the same reason that you can hire anybody for a low entry position job like fast food or retail. Why? Because in those positions, when people show up, anyone can do them because the systems and procedures are proven. They're in place already. That person just has to come in and show up and do it. Well, what would it look like if you did the same thing with your salesmen? If you hired guys and you no longer had to rely on finding those guys with the X factor or that charisma to be producing for you. Okay, because if that's your recruiting strategy, you're just kind of hoping to find those diamonds in the rough, that's not something that's going to sustain your business. There absolutely must be a standardized, systemized training procedure in place for your new hires so that when they come in, it's very simple. You don't need to be the best salesman out there. You don't need to be the smoothest talker. All you have to do is do this every step of the way. And then it's very simple, okay? So just some food for thought there, guys, based on retention and as business owners or managers, running your business and hiring, training, and trying to keep sales guys. That's really one of the biggest foundations that needs to be built is proper training so that your guys have the resources to do well. And then when they do well, that's all, their actions are up to them then. They're either going to show up or they're not. And if people show up and they use the systems that work, they're going to get results. And if they get results, they're going to stick around.